Hey listeners, did you know that technology has been the great equalizer for small businesses, especially using AWS? Technology is allowing small businesses to compete or excel against big brands from anywhere. There was a statistic showing that 70% of small businesses fail, but in reality, 70% of small businesses are more successful now than ever. And how are these SMBs surviving and moving faster than large enterprises, including retaining and closing that skills gap? Find out how AWS is helping SMBs in Asia, Pacific, and Japan, because joining me today is Head of Small Businesses in APJ, Anna Green. When they said this is the great resignation, what do you think these people are doing? They're starting their own business and thriving. Speaking of small businesses, did you know that public cloud is making technology easier and accessible to everyone with the breadth and depth of services available, including digital training? Before I bring Anna onto the show, how about you hit that like, subscribe, and notification? Time to get started. Please join me in welcoming Anna to the show. Anna, thanks for joining me.
Hey, John, it is great to be here. Thank you so much for welcoming me onto the show. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
So, Anna, I'm super excited that you could join me from halfway around the world. And our topic today is SMBs and how it's about the fast, no longer the big, that survive and thrive, and what that means. Before we explore this topic, would you give the audience a little bit about yourself and what it means to be the head of SMB for APJ at AWS? And don't mind all the acronyms.
Yeah, I know. And honestly, John, it's one of the challenges of working in tech, which I've realized, which is the outrageous number of acronyms. But having said that, my title is pretty easy to understand. I'm the head of Asia, Pacific, and Japan small, medium business team. And that is across all of the countries we just talked about. It's such an exciting job to do, to be honest with you, John, because the opportunity for us to really help small and medium business using cloud technology, as I've learned in this period of time I've been running the business, is just outrageous. It's so exciting. There's so much going on in business. And when we think about how we can help to solve problems for our customers, a lot of that is happening in this small and medium business segment. So it's a pretty exciting place to be, and it's a pretty exciting time to be helping business to become digitally savvy.
So helping some of our small business customers, before I jump into that, how long have you been at AWS?
So I've been at AWS for 2 years. It's kind of like, 7 dog years. I don't know. It's hard to explain. You will have spoken with lots of people from AWS. It's like, I really feel like I'm part of the furniture now. It's an amazing organization. The way in which our teams come together, the cross-section of points of view, the diversity, and especially working in APJ, it's just such an exciting organization to be a part of. And, we really take it seriously that we are trying our best to represent diverse points of view as we build our business for all the different customers that want to use cloud technology, and really kind of democratize IT for everyone out there who wants to get involved in building businesses on the cloud.
So I know how you feel with the 2 years. Did you know I'm an ex-Amazonian as well that hit my 2-year mark? So I absolutely know how you feel and what it means to be 2 years there and you're part of the furniture.
Yeah, and I did know that, John, which is why I'm kind of excited to talk to you, so you'll understand that building the business and building what is such an exciting part of I think the macroeconomic businesses that we are getting involved in across the whole of the world is so exciting. AWS really is a global organization, and it takes its footprint really seriously. And that can be evidenced by the 2 really cool leadership principles that have recently been announced by our CEO. And I'm sure you're aware of those, John, because you're speaking to people from AWS all the time. But to be the best employer of choice in the world, and then also that comes scale and responsibility. So these are 2 that really resonate with me. I wanted to be able to talk to you about them actually, John, because for me it's a cool reason to be working at AWS, because we take that stuff seriously and we are doing as much as we can in all of the communities that we operate to make sure that we're really making an impact and doing stuff that's helping our communities with the business that we're building and growing.
So you mentioned some of the diverse culture, and I got to touch on that real quick. You know that you were only the second person from halfway around the world that I have had on my show or had the chance to interview.
Wow. Well, I feel very honored then, John. That's very cool of you. And, I'd love to say that I'm representative of everyone across APJ, but the reality is I'm not. And again, one of the cool things about working at AWS is that we have so many different types of people who are working at AWS with completely different cultural, gender, kind of community mindsets, which makes it a really interesting place to work. And I really love working across Asia Pacific and Japan. I really love being able to have that lens across an international business. And APJ is a really exciting place to be doing business. And I know that you are speaking to people in the US all the time. So hopefully I can talk to you a little bit about what's happening in the rest of the world, which I know you hear about, but certainly AWS is doing so much in a global context and quite a lot here in APJ.
So I like getting the views from other parts of the world. Some of the interesting, I had Sandra Teh, the storyteller, actually on my show. I think it's been a year, and I kind of labeled it telling the story of the storyteller. And she's kind of like really all the stories that she puts together from around the world really resonate and really tell those stories. So I love her passion, and I love the stories that she brings to it. So I'm always looking to really bring that diverse culture to my show and really tell the stories, not only from US based, but from anywhere. So it's just fun to bring that experience to the show.
Oh, well, and I commend you for that, because, as we've faced into some really challenging times with what's happened with the pandemic. And one of the things I believe that we all can do is connect much better as a community. And obviously cloud technology helps you to do that. But working in an organization that's actually helping that happen really makes me happy to work at AWS. And, thanks, John, for being open-minded, listening to what's happening in the rest of the world. That's very cool.
Well, thank you. And thanks for saying yes to be on the show. So let's jump into a little bit. Let's define SMBs, or what would you consider an SMB? And I think we just kind of set the stage there to some of the other questions that we have to present on the show.
Yeah, probably the best way to think about what an SMB is, or what the SMB team represents, is that according to the World Trade Organization, small and medium businesses represent about 90% of the business population. And that's 60 to 70% of the employment in most of the countries in which we operate, and are driving about 55% of GDP in developed economies. So that's just to give you a sense of what an SMB market looks like. And then SMBs, obviously for us at AWS, they make up a really large proportion of our business. And if you are an SMB now, the chances are that AWS is actually probably already servicing you and help you to become digital in many different ways that businesses fundamentally often don't understand. And then there are, for us here in APJ, what we call SMBs. There's 173 million of them in APJ alone. It's just massive. And we see them as a kind of a growth engine for the business that we are building and growing across Asia Pacific and actually across the world. So SMBs can be big, they can be small, and they are, as I said, basically responsible for driving economic growth in all of the countries in which we operate, not just here in APJ, but across the world.
Okay, you mentioned a lot of actually good data on really how SMBs are thriving right now. I want to touch on that just a little bit. How are they surviving faster than these large enterprises out there? Because I know a lot that are having some of those difficulties as a huge, large enterprise, but I noticed that there's a huge growth with SMBs now versus those large enterprises.
Yeah, it's a great question. And you're right. And I guess the best way to think about it is that even within SMBs, there's large, there's small, there's SMBs that have been going on for a long time. There's been SMBs that have actually built their businesses digitally and on the cloud. And so AWS is really thinking differently about what each type of SMB needs from us. So if you think about what's happening in the digital economy, today's consumers basically are online. They want to be online, and they are engaged, and increasingly so over time, particularly that I want to say millennial, but it's not millennial anymore. It's basically everyone who is having anything to do with business. So they're super engaged and they're online, and they're interested in growing online. So what we're trying to do is speak to the SMBs who are I guess experiencing cloud and experiencing digital business in different ways. And so what their size and their agility typically, and also their hyper locality, really gives them an ability to be able to respond to digital business trends in a really kind of agile way, what we call agile. And again, speaking, that's a word that's used a lot, John, but people don't always know what it means. But now, having been in tech for this period of time, agility and your ability to actually build a business quickly and respond to consumer demand is really important for businesses. So this is one of the things we're seeing SMBs who are being successful building business on the cloud being able to do. They become agile when they move to the cloud. I mean, and again, I'm not sure if I answered your question, so let's go a bit deeper.
You did. You did. In fact, you mentioned agile, and agile is no longer an ITSM phrase. It's actually more towards the technology and how fast they're moving. I mean, would you agree, or am I on the wrong track? Because ITSM was the old mentality of thinking where agile now is the new day.
Yeah, so it's really interesting you bring that up, because my prior role before coming across to AWS is that I was the CEO of a bank. And as you can imagine, what I saw in terms of the cultural mindset is that banks obviously are cultures that have been built over time, and the banks that we're dealing with have built cultures, traditional processes and systems, things happening a certain way over hundreds of years. They've built their methodology. And yet working in technology, what I know for sure is actually it's the people who are agile, that can respond quickly, and that can build solutions that are customer-based as opposed to process-based, are the ones that are most successful. So having worked in a bank and understanding how they're trying to think about agile, and all banks now, by the way, are talking about being agile, which is interesting because they're also kind of struggling with cultural change. And now seeing it in a tech business, to me, it's just super interesting how that technology methodology is now being applied to all industries, regardless of where they are.
Okay, you indicated millennial, and it's not a phrase anymore, right? So my question, and this is actually just a really unique thinking about it, is that there's millennial, your generation X, whatever it is. I think the whole pandemic has thrown a curveball into defining these generations and millennial, that there's a new day or a new dawn happening where these small SMBs never thought of going to cloud or thought of cloud as a driving factor behind it. But now, like a bank, I probably would have never thought like 5 years ago a bank would go to cloud. Why? Because they wanted to keep everything in-house. They wanted a tight control over that one. But I've noticed a change where during the pandemic, a lot of banks have looked outside and have started that round of utilizing that technology. Actually being at a bank and running it. Is that what you were seeing? I mean, like, I want your experience. I want some of the feedback on how banks are transitioning now.
Yeah, and again, my experience was understanding IT, but from the business side. So if you're leading a business and you're thinking about, it's not really that different to what an SMB is thinking about, which is, what are my costs? I need to optimize my costs. So if you're looking at as a CFO or a running any kind of business, you're worried about, how do I keep the lights on? I've got to make sure that I manage costs. What's interesting is banking went through this change, or should I say the legal and technology team went through this change after the GFC, which basically was a bunch of people in their customers saying, we are no longer going to pay those fees for that. We ourselves are being challenged. There's like a worldwide event around the GFC. Therefore, we want to make sure that we are optimizing our costs. So you law firms, you banks, go away and figure out how to fix that. And so cost optimization became everything. So again, if we relate it back to what a small business is facing, they need to keep the lights on. So using IT and using cloud technology to do that is just, it's a very simple way to get it done. The challenge is that business leaders, and that goes from banks all the way down to small and medium businesses, don't understand how technology can help you save money, that can help you save costs. And on top of that, the benefits that come from being able to optimize costs, which means you keep your shareholders, you keep your lights on. But then within that, you can also change and operationalize risk in a much more controlled way. And you can also use your teams to do valuable work. You can start to outsource the work of things like inputting information into an Excel spreadsheet. As one of our customers, I love using this example that we had a customer in America, in Florida, who basically was a butcher but went online. And what they did was use all of our processes to be able to help them to take an Excel spreadsheet input into a cloud managed input. Not only were they able to save money, but on top of that, they were able to scale to a much broader customer base. So, when we think about that as an opportunity using cloud technology, it's really very exciting. And it really doesn't matter what business you're running. Cloud technology saves you money and can allow you to operationalize. This is my having fun with words that we use all the time. Operationalize processes straight through and free up your teams to actually focus on doing the business.
So are you saying that technology, and not just specific cloud technology, but we can talk about it because it's obviously AWS, and I have a lot of fun talking about them. I have a huge passion for AWS, but are you saying that cloud technology has been an equalizer for small business or small, medium businesses? I mean, I'm thinking about it, and you said to keep the lights on, always had to think about it. And a small business, yeah, that's one of your top things. You're like, okay, I got to operationalize my costs. Where large enterprises, they're not thinking about how to keep the lights on. They're thinking about, winning that next sale. But now that you have cloud technology, they can save costs, not have to worry and constrained about keeping the lights on, because now they've just become equal in a way.
Yes. And again, it's not a complicated or complex message, John. It's really simple. What we are doing at AWS is democratizing IT for everyone. So you can use the services that AWS provides to do all of the things that you need to do to be a successful business. So we had a recent study, which actually we looked at SMBs across APJ, and we tried to find out what was the impact of COVID on their operation. We had some really key findings from that, which are obviously cost management and cash flow was paramount for them to be able to get through that period of time. So you want to reduce your CapEx. You've got to reduce your headcount potentially because there's a major issue going on. And they've also got to find ways to get new funding. And then there's growth. So on top of having to reduce your risk, you've also got to keep growing with new customers in new markets. You've got to be thinking about that always when you're running a business. And then employee engagement was really important. So as people moved online, how do you make sure your employees are feeling okay? How do you make sure that you're connecting with them on a regular basis? We had a great example of a customer in Western Australia who ran an aged care health facility. Now, as soon as COVID happened, none of their teams could get in to do the work that they had to every day. So they very quickly needed to be able to set up an operation that allowed them to connect with their teams, with their customers around the world and within Australia. So within 2 days, we were able to set up an Amazon Connect service for that business, which allowed them to do that, which meant that they could get through what was a really difficult time with their teams and their customers in a way that was effective. So again, connectivity is really big for them. And then operational transformation. So like I said to you, instead of typing in an input into an Excel spreadsheet, you're actually using technology that's already available on AWS to transform your end-to-end business process. And then finally, kind of customer engagement, like finding ways to talk to your customers about their experience of your business. You can do that using the cloud. So again, the takeaway from that study was everything that small businesses were facing into, the challenges they were facing, was stuff that cloud could really solve for them.
I enjoy the case studies, by the way, because it really resonates. I love the Amazon, obviously data-driven. So you use a lot of examples, being an ex-Amazonian. But you mentioned that in the beginning when COVID hit, basically they had to scale down their jobs, right? So they had to figure out a way to make this work, but then they also had the growth. Right now, we're experiencing growth and skill shortage. How does that translate now that everything's happening? I mean, obviously, technology is bringing these SMBs and other enterprises up. Things are growing. But now let's talk about SMBs. Is there a skill shortage or a gap anywhere? And how are they resolving it?
Yeah, great question, John. And I think probably resonates across not just SMB, right? this is something that's impactful across the industry, regardless of where you work. So what I would say to your audience is, we're not really looking at an employee shortage anymore. We're really looking at a skills shortage. And we know that because AWS has commissioned an alpha beta survey, which basically looked at that. What is the skill shortage? What is the challenge that we're going to have as we build this technology for the future? And what we found was that the workers, we looked at 6 markets here: Australia, India, Indonesia, and Japan, Singapore, and South Korea. And what we found that in APJ, the digital skills in these markets is going to, the requirement for them to increase their digital skills is going to increase by 5-fold, meaning that we are going to need from 149 million workers who have digital skills today, we're going to need 819 million workers in 2025 that have digital skills. I mean, it's mind-blowing. And, I've got 2 kids. And when they're asking me, they're telling me what they want to do with their lives, John, the thing that I say to them first and foremost is like, get some digital skills. And what's important, and luckily my son is a gamer, so we're good there. And I'm not so good with the gaming, but at least I'm trying to learn and be curious. But one of the things that is key about that is that it's not just coding. And I really, as you know, I'm someone who tries to help women as well to think differently about careers in tech. And it's one of the things that resonates all the time with the women that I speak to when they're like, oh, you've moved into technology. That's really interesting. What's your background? I'm like, well, you know what? Apart from having done Turbo Pascal 5.5 coding a very long time ago, which is embarrassing to admit, but yes. And I didn't do it for long, but I did it, which gives me immense respect, by the way, for everyone who ever does anything to do with coding. It's incredibly difficult, and it's a skill in itself. Having said that, there's lots of digital skills out there that have nothing to do with coding. So if you think about social media, if you think about marketing, if you think about data analysis, if you think about data visualization and presentations, project management, these are all skills that we need in a digital business model. So I really do encourage people to think differently about what a digital skill set means and what it looks like, because there's just so much opportunity in technology to build a really great career.
I think you summed it up, and you kind of brought clarification to when let's go out and get some IT or digital skills. And everybody's like, oh my God, I got to learn cloud. Let's go learn cloud. Give me the next course. And by the way, Amazon does have some free courses on their website that you should take a look at, because they are trying to close the skills gap. Yes, it's a plug in there. Anna did not have to do it because I love the site. I love all the other. But anyway, so going back to it, you mentioned a number of those, marketing. By the way, I never thought I'd be in it, but I am in marketing and I get to do what I love every day. I'm also a tech evangelist and I get to do this on the side. But going with that, you mentioned some other things, other skills that are needed, not just public cloud. And so coding was one of them. I think if you actually go into the console, any console, yes, we're going to talk about AWS, you don't need coding. You just have to understand the services and how all the pieces come together. Yes, you can do coding behind the scenes. They got great tools, third-party tools out there. But I love how you mentioned that it's not just cloud. It's not just AWS. There's all kinds of other things. If you look at AWS, there's not just solution architects or partner solutions or engineer jobs. There are so many other things out there that I implore you to take a look at. You mentioned your son does gaming. My son actually wants to sit with me, and he's into content creation, and we are working on our first video together. He's sitting here while I do the editing and kind of working for it. It's a slow process, but that's just the skills. I want him to teach them from beginning to end of creating it. So I love how you captured that.
Yeah, and it's so important, again, because as we look to the future, you think the numbers that I've just given you speak for themselves, right? 819 million digital workers are going to be needed for us to be able to.
Where are we going to find that? Where?
Yeah. Get out there, get some digital training, and again, find an area that you're interested in and then go for it. It is very exciting as well. That's the other part. One of the things so again, my career has been varied, John. I've done lots of different things, but what I found, I'm a lawyer actually by trade. And so I've worked in law, I've worked in banking, and now here I am in technology. And what I know for sure is that in technology, we're not talking about how do we downsize? How do we, we are talking about reducing costs for our customers, but that's not the driver for us. We're talking about how do we build? How do we use different people's thought processes in different ways to build amazing things for our customers? What do our customers want? What are they experiencing with this new technology? What do we need to build so that they can get what they need? I mean, every day I'm reading things in the newspaper, wherever I'm looking and thinking about, what's happening in the world. It's all going to be happening online. It is all about growing a digital presence in a business context. And I guess bringing it back to SMB, that's why it's really important for me to be able to land the message with businesses out there that, number one, it's not hard. So this is a challenge we often have with with SMBs, small and medium businesses, particularly those that are traditional. They're scared of it. They may not necessarily know what it is. And so for us, it's really about simplifying that message and letting our small and medium business customers understand it's not hard to move to the cloud. We have, over 180 services and solutions that we provide at AWS, and we have amazing teams of people that help our customers on that journey. So moving to the cloud is, I would suggest, an imperative for business to be successful going forward, and it's not that hard to do. You just need to, I guess, engage, reach out, learn a bit, get some digital skills, and you can leverage off what a lot of our business customers are doing, which is building a business for the future.
So, and you wrapped everything up. My final question was anything else you would like to add, because we talked about SMBs surviving faster than large enterprises, the skills gap, and how technology has been the great equalizer. And my last question was anything else before we wrap it up? But I think that was a great summary, but I'm going to give you the chance. Anything you want to add on to that?
I just welcome people to the world of cloud, welcome people to the world of digital business. It's happening. What we see for sure is that businesses that are understanding and learning about how things like automation, like changing your infrastructure, like just doing something as simple as setting up a website with Amazon Lightsail can completely change the experience that your teams have, can completely change the experience, importantly, that your customers have, and can help your business to grow. And really, that's what we're all about. We want to help businesses to grow, customers to get what they need, and people to be happy using technology in their day-to-day life. So, for me, I'm really excited to be running the SMB business across APJ. I'm really excited that people like you are wanting to have conversations about how we can help our business customers to build and grow on the cloud. So, for me, really, John, thank you for giving us the time to be able to have the conversation. And hopefully there'll be some people out there who want to get involved.
And so I want to wrap some things up a little bit. Are you interested, and this is really for the audience, are you really interested in finding out how the cloud can help small businesses become big brands? Well, I bet you think that wasn't possible, but with the rapid use of technology, it's a growing trend. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and notify, because Anna is joining me for another podcast in the upcoming weeks to discuss this exact topic. Anna, thanks for joining me, and I look forward to our next discussion.
I can't wait. Thank you so much, John. And thanks to everyone out there.
All right, we're out of here.